Joe Brady. Pretty shocking move here. The Buffalo Bills have officially hired Joe Brady to be their head coach under Josh Allen and company. I was pretty torn apart from this hire. Obviously, the bowling balls and the dominoes are starting to fall in the NFL coaching searches. A lot of people, Jesse Minter's been hired, Robert Saleh, from the top of my head. The Browns just hired their head coach yesterday. The Steelers. So there's been a lot of names that a lot of job positions are being filled in the head coaching space. And pretty much, I say that to say this. All the great, and I thought great, S tier, you can even say, head coaching candidates have pretty much been hired. And you're the Buffalo Bills, who made a pretty dumb decision, might I say. Really idiotic decision to pivot off from Sean McDermott. And I believe Colin Cowherd, I really, really believe this when he says it. When you move off of a head coach, what is your contingency plan? Obviously, smartingly so, you want to have a coach who obviously is without a doubt a no-brainer, a better option than the current one that you had. So when you pivot off a coach, you better be darn sure that the guy that you bring in is going to be astronomically better than what you already had. And my initial reaction is I have no faith he will be better than Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott had 8 playoff wins. He was 8-8. But in the time span that Sean McDermott was winning that many playoff games, John Harbaugh only won 3. Sean McDermott had to go up against a dynasty in the Kansas City Chiefs in the prime of Josh Allen's career. And even this season, with a roster that was not that good, and Sean McDermott voiced that. And that ultimately got him fired. But hiring within, nobody is normally comfortable with. No matter how many times we've seen it happen around the league, 9 times out of 10, this idea never ends well. Because it's too comfortable of a hire. To be successful in the NFL and to be successful in any type of thing in life, you got to get uncomfortable. It's a pretty cliche statement to say, but it's pretty true. And that is not what the Buffalo Bills did. Hiring within, you want to change in the Bills culture. But Joe Brady is part of the old regime. And one could argue that Joe Brady is probably not, and I think probably will not be, better at that job than Sean McDermott. I know, Joe Brady was a young hot name coming out of LSU. He helped Joe Burrow and those guys win a national championship. But can we not remember that he had Heisman winner and one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now at the moment, Joe Burrow at quarterback. He had 2 All-Pro, future All-Pro, and Pro Bowl wide receivers in Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, many people's top 3 wide receivers in the NFL at the moment. A running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the time, who was very good. You had Patrick Queen on that team. They had a lot of weapons. They had weapons everywhere on that roster. What I'm pointing out a defensive player, that's obviously has nothing to do with Joe Brady, but that's just the type of team that Joe Brady, inherited at LSU. Then he goes to Carolina for a couple years with Sam Darnold. Didn't work. Then he's been with Buffalo for the last 2 years. And obviously he does not have the roster like the last guy had. What was his name? Can't quite remember. Ken Dorsey, I think was his name. He didn't have the roster that he had, so to speak, offensively, but let's be honest, that side of the ball wasn't the greatest. Granted, you got to give Joe Brady credit. He done a lot with nothing with the whole hook and ladder plays and things of that nature. But there's been multiple times this season where we kind of felt like don't love Joe Brady's play calling at sometimes. Not saying that Joe Brady was a terrible play caller. There were just some times throughout the season where Joe Brady was like, got to help Josh Allen here. Got to put him in a good position to play well. So yeah, I'm a little underwhelmed. Totally underwhelmed. And I didn't think that Sean McDermott deserved to be fired. And the reason why I don't think Joe Brady is going to do a better job is because of the roster. The roster wasn't good. They had to get Brandon Cooks off of the streets, and he ended up being their second wide receiver on the depth chart in the last playoff game they had, because Gabe Davis and Shavers shredded their ACLs, and Khalil Shakir, he'll probably be a number 3 on any other roster. Heck, go to Philly, go to Dallas, go to any other team who has a comparable wide receiver room outside of maybe the Chargers off the top of my head. He's going to be like Khalil Shakir would be a 3. And he would be a guy that you would put in the slot. So you have Brandon Cooks as your number 2 wide receiver. And Brandon Beane somehow got promoted to president of football operations, after I think he's done a horrific job as the GM of the Buffalo Bills. He's drafted 2 Pro Bowl players in the 56 draft picks that he's had, outside of Josh Allen. And those 2 players are Deion Dawkins and James Cook. Offensive guys. Hasn't hit on a wide receiver. Hasn't even hit on no defensive players. Granted, I think the Harrison kid can be pretty good, but he can't even stay on the field at the moment. So it does not, this hire for me is just screaming, okay. It's a pretty comfortable hire. But when you even look in your own division, look at what the Patriots did. Robert Kraft made an uncomfortable move and got Mike Vrabel. And look how it's panned out. I wish Joe Brady the best, but it was reported that Josh Allen didn't have a significant say in the hire. They interviewed Brian Daboll. I thought Brian Daboll would have been a better option than Joe Brady. But granted, the way Brian Daboll was running things, Brian Daboll won Coach of the Year. There were sometimes you didn't love Brian Daboll's game management. So, heck, I would have probably been more in favor of giving Joe Brady a shot. But you had him. Heck, they even interviewed Phillip Rivers at one point. That's how pretty embarrassing this head coaching search was, because there's not a lot of names that were available. All the big names are gone. And so you're kind of digging for the scraps here, these last couple teams for the coaching search. Because I think right now you still have the Cardinals, the Raiders, and there's one other team that I'm forgetting off the top of my head right now who has a head coaching vacancy. But my initial reaction was pretty much, sorry, Josh. I don't see how the grass gets greener on that side, bud. I just think it was a bad idea pivoting off from Sean McDermott.